Grab a coffee, put your feet up and come and join me. Hi, my name's Christine L. Conroy. Welcome to Happy Stuff and Fluff, a channel for women over 50 who are getting happy and growing younger. If this is your first visit here, this is a channel all about finding ways that we can increase our happiness and well-being over the age of 50. Today, however, is a question and answer video, and I'm answering your questions. When I was asked to do a Q&A video, I was a little bit concerned, really, thinking, what if no one wants to know anything? What if nobody wants to ask me any questions? Well, I needn't have worried, because you came through and have asked me lots of fabulous questions. So many, in fact, that this is going to be a two-parter, I think. And also, some of the questions that you asked were so good that I'm going to be creating videos, single videos about that particular subject. So if I don't get to your question today, rest assured I will get to it one way or another, either by answering the question in part 2 or by doing a full video on it. Now, you'll understand what I mean about it taking time when I answer the first question. So the first question is, what kind of books do you like to read? Now, you haven't said in this question whether you mean non-fiction or fiction, so I'll just briefly go through both of those things. Of course, I spend an awful lot of my time reading reference books, happiness and well-being and everything associated with that, and I love it. You know, they don't feel like, it doesn't feel like work in any way when I'm reading those kinds of books. I am so fascinated to find out more and more about how we can grow and develop and increase our happiness, and that I can find things that I can research and then pass on to you if I think it's going to be useful to you. So I love doing that. Other non-fiction books, well, I'm not sure if I've talked about it in fact I don't think I have on Happy Stuff and Fluff, but my first degree is in art and design history, and I love art history and design art history, so that covers architecture too. So I love art books, architectural books, interior design books, all of those visual kind of things I really enjoy. In fact, I've done a few speeches and a few courses on combining art with well-being and how to use looking at art in order to help us to increase our well-being. So that's something else I love to do. Now, in terms of fiction, I used to like crime novels. I mean, this has kind of changed as I've gone along. I liked mainly crime novels. I know you shouldn't say I like this kind of book and not that kind of book. I'm a perfect example of that, as you'll hear. So I used to read crime novels, but then all of a sudden, because I watch crime TV programs too, they became too violent and too disturbing, and I don't like those. I like my murders gentle. You know what I mean? Some of them, I don't like watching something where I have to go, oh, can't watch, and that, or I turn the page because I don't want to read something. So increasingly, I've been moving away from crime novels recently and reading all kinds of things. I mean, I've just finished a classic book, The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Armin, which is a delightful book, just about a group of people meeting. A lovely book, just a nice, soft, easy read. And I've also finished the second book of the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. The second book was The Shadow of the Night, and this is The Discovery of Witches. It's all about a discovery of witches, which is not my usual genre, but I'm kind of tipping my toe in the water of different genres at the moment, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So a bit of a mix, really, but I've always got something to read, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, and I like it that way. Okay, so that's books. You tell me in the comments below what are your favourite books, and if anybody's reading a great book at the moment, tell us about it so we can have a look at it. That would be great. Second question, what do you recommend for physical activity for wellness for women over 50? Now, this is going to be a video. I'm going to be talking about exercise. I keep saying that. But it's changed for me again from when I was 50, which is now 11 years ago. I was exercising vigorously at least 5 days a week. And incidentally, in answer to one of the other questions that's going to come up about how I dealt with the menopause, exercise helped me through the menopause. I'll talk about that later. In terms of physical activity, I did strong aerobic activity for 45 minutes, 5 days a week, and it was no effort to me, simply because I have always exercised since as long as I can remember. And so I didn't just suddenly start exercising like that at 50. If you've never exercised before, then obviously you've got to start slowly and build up to that. But now, because two things happened. I picked up a rather nasty virus about 3 or 4 years ago. Really nasty. I had test after test after test. They couldn't find out what it was, but it affected the body, muscles in my body, to the extent that some days I couldn't walk. It went on for the longest time, and slowly I came out of that, but I couldn't exercise whilst that was going on. And would you believe, just as I was getting out of that, I fell down the stairs and landed on my coccyx. If you've been with me a long time, you'll know about that. So that stopped me exercising that way too. So now my exercise is a little bit more gentle. Aerobic exercise is vital, which I will be talking about in the video that I do. But I do yoga, and just yoga, I could say to you, would be a great place for you to start if you haven't done exercise before, because if you do it properly, yoga exercise will give you aerobics, it will give you stretching and flexibility, and it will give you strength. Believe me, you hold a pose for a certain length of time, then it's going to give you strength, because of course coming through the menopause, your bones and the density of your bones are a concern, and so weightlifting, even light weightlifting, 2 to 3 times a week is advised. So yes, I would say do some exercise that gets you out of breath for 15 to 20 minutes a day. Do yoga as often as you can, because it does keep you supple, and obviously as you get older your joints start to seize up and arthritis sets and all those horrible things. Yoga will help to prevent that for sure. And if you want to then do some light weightlifting, you can do all these things at home. You can do them all at home, which is what I now do. But I am building up to do more and more. For the moment, I'm focusing on yoga and aerobic exercise, probably about 3 times a week. Okay, let's have a look. I'm going to get froth on my lip. Okay, I would love to hear more about how you came to choose the profession you are in. You seem like such a fascinating and fulfilled woman. How did you choose to become a health and wellness coach? And then you say, forgive me if I'm not using the right terminology. In fact, I'm not a health and wellness coach. I'm a positive psychology practitioner, which can cover coaching, but covers teaching, and I speak, and obviously I've also written a book. And you asked me, how did I start to get into this profession? Well, it's in Stitch Your Own Silver Linings, this story, but I'll try to tell it briefly here. So I've changed my career, I would say 3 times, if not more, over the course of my working life. Oddly enough, it's always involved, the thread running through has always involved some kind of caring or service for others. So that's the thread that's kind of run through it all. But I was a lecturer to university students, so aged between 18 to 21. And as many of you know, my mum's sister and of course Charlotte, by the time I was 37, had already been diagnosed with their cancers. So as a family, we went through an awful lot there, and we consciously decided we had to do something about it and try to help ourselves through it. And I wrote down a lot of the things that we were talking about. And during my research at that time, I came across positive psychology, which is a relatively new science in actual fact, probably about 1999, I think. Anyway, it was about 2009 when I really got into positive psychology, because I went to their first World Congress, which was in Philadelphia in 2009. I think we were there for 3 days. I just knew when I was there, this is it. I was immersed in it. This is the answer. This is what I've been looking for, because a lot of the other things I found lacking in one way or another. Here was a psychology that could be applied, that I could say to someone, when you read books, I keep saying this, and I'll say, well, that's all very well, but how can that help me in my life? Or now, how can I use that to help you in your life? So positive psychology was there, and I was studying that independently for a long time. Then I had an incident with a student, and it turned into my teaching at university was more and more encompassing personal development for the students. And so I thought, look, if I'm going to be teaching personal development to students, I need to get qualified in it. And certainly if I was going to convince the university to let me teach students, I needed to get qualified. So I went away and did an intensive personal development coaching course. That, combined with the positive psychology, really equipped me to be able to speak confidently and put things into practice with my own family and what was happening to me, and also for the students at university. So that's the short version of how I came to be doing what I'm doing. In terms of me being fulfilled, I'm like anyone else. I'm finding things, and this is what I would suggest to you, things to be passionate about, things to be interested in, things where I can be my authentic self. We talked about that last week. Things that I find fulfilling tend to be involve helping others. And again, I've talked about this before. And believe me, that is no kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Sanctimonious thing to say. I just think, as I've said before, the quickest way to your own happiness is to go out and help someone else. So I guess that's what I mean by that. Okay, next question. I'm looking to see if there's something simple that I can answer. Questions like, what would you tell your 13-year-old self? It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. My life at 13 was not good. And if I could reach back in and give her a hug and say, it's all going to be okay, that's what I would love to do. I would say you are loved and you are worthy. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. Do you remember that song? Fabulous song. I haven't heard that in a long time. But that's probably what I would say to my 13-year-old self, but I would certainly love to swoop in as she's sitting on the kitchen table feeling so bad, and put my arms around her and say, do you know what? You are going to be fine. Okay, next question. Do you prefer city or country life? Great question. For those of you who don't know, I brought my family up. Our family home was for 28 years or so, was in the countryside. So we lived on top of a hill, not quite in the middle of nowhere, but a little hamlet on top of a hill in the countryside. And we lived there for 28 years. And 12 months ago, we sold up because our 3 children had grown up and moved on. And it was a big house, and we felt it was time for a change. So rather than buy another home straight away, we decided to trial city living. So we came into the city and we're renting here, and then once we've experienced city living, I've no doubt we'll buy a house. Well, I'm saying I've no doubt. We're not sure yet whether we want to stay here or move back to a countryside area. It's a difficult question to answer because obviously I was in the countryside for 28 years and we've only been here 12 months. But I've said to you as we've gone along, things that happen just right beneath my window, from pop concerts to political rallies to fitness classes go out on the lawn, go on the lawn down below. Children come to see because we're by a historic monument as well, so there's always school children coming to have a look at that. Whereas in the countryside, if I looked out of the window, the view was fabulous, and I might see the odd cow or sheep, which I loved. But it's different. It's certainly different. And from here, within 10 minutes, I'm at one of the city's best restaurants. Whereas where we lived before, you couldn't walk anywhere. You had to jump in the car if you needed a bottle of milk even. But what I do miss, recently, they were snowed in. They were still in touch with the people who bought our house, and it snowed. We got a little dusting of it here, but they were snowed in, and I kind of envied that. It was the first time in 12 months that I thought, oh, I miss that. I miss it. But there we are. This is a question I'll possibly answer more fully further on down the line. Well, this is great, but I'm going to stop because you're going to need another coffee, and certainly so am I. Okay, so yeah, lots more questions, but send them in. If you haven't sent one in, send them in. I'll do part 3 too. But you see what I say about the questions? They're all great, chunky, meaty questions that are really great. It almost feels like you're sitting here with me at the table whilst we talk. And I love that. And certainly some of the questions that I probably wouldn't get the chance to answer, talk about the subject, at least not till further down the line. So that's great. Thank you so much for sending your questions in. Okay, so that's it for now. Yeah, put in the comments if you're reading a good book. That would be great. I always look for, certainly for fiction, recommendations for books. That would be great. Tell us what you're reading. And I'll see you soon. And until then, remember that on the Happy Stuff and Fluff, we are getting happy and growing younger. Bye-bye.